Of late, there has been tremendous interest in index funds. What are index funds? Why must one consider index funds? And what are the challenges involved in investing in index funds? These are some of the questions that we're going to be exploring in today's episode on index funds. Now, let's first understand what is an index fund. An index is a stock market barometer, very similar to a weather barometer. A stock market index is an index, a list of stocks with their weightages. For example, Nifty, which is the National Stock Exchange NSE 50 index, consists of the top 50 companies listed in the National Stock Exchange. Similarly, you have the BSE 30, which consists of what we commonly called as Sensex. This consists of the top 30. Now, these are examples of index. Now, any investments that is done which exactly replicates this index in terms of weightages of stock portfolios is called index funds. Now, these index funds are generally popular in the West, but of late they've also started gaining traction in India. What are the different types of index funds that are available? Index funds can broadly be categorized in a variety of different formats. First up, large market-oriented index. What we mean by this is, let's say an example of this is S&P 500 index. This will track the top 500 stocks listed in the stock market. And when you invest in this index, you're actually buying into every single stock that is invested in that portfolio according to the weightage of S&P 500. So you get a broad market participation by investing into this kind of an index. Next up, you have index which are categorized based on market capitalization. Large cap, the top 100 companies are called large cap. So there is an index for large cap companies. There is a Nifty 50 and Nifty Next 50, which means the top 50, and then you have 51 to 100 as another index. Then you have the mid cap, which is 100 to 250 stocks by market capitalization. And then you have the small cap index, which is 251 to 500. All these are examples of different indexes that are available, and the index fund's job is merely to replicate the same percentages and allocation of stocks as would have the index. So this is the purpose of market capitalization based index. Then you have sector specific index. You have a pharma index, you have a consumer index, you have a banking index. Now, all these give specific exposure to the respective industry based on already existing index. So there must be an underlying index already in place before you can have an index fund. Next, you have international indexes. Companies that are listed in NASDAQ 100, which is NASDAQ's top 100 companies, is called the NASDAQ index. Now you can have an index fund. You can invest sitting out of India into a NASDAQ 100, which means you will get to participate in the performance of the top 100 companies in NASDAQ as well. These are called the international indexes. And next you have also what is called a fixed income, which is not only share-based, but bonds and debentures and government securities also have their own index, so you can either participate in that as well. Now, these are all the different varieties of indexes that are available in the country for somebody to participate. But why at all one should invest in index? What's the difference between fund manager managed, actively managed fund and an index fund? Index fund, the primary reason why somebody invests in an index fund is because at any point in time, the stock market performance of a portfolio is always compared to the index. Now, assuming if you can buy into the index itself, then you don't have any other issue because your performance will always be right up there. That is largely the belief that if you want to have a standard performance at all times, as long as you stay invested along with the index, then you won't have any underperformance. That's the first reason why people look at index as a place to go. Second, since there is no fund manager, you are merely replicating what is already in the index in terms of percentage of stocks. There is no need for a fund manager. So you save a precious cost while investing in index funds. The charges are very minuscule as compared to a fund manager managed funds. So to that extent, hopefully, the index performance will justify itself over a longish period of time. So as long as you stay a reasonable period of time, the index fund should generate a superior return, is the traditional thought process. Third, the expertise or the intelligence of the market is what you tap into when you buy into the index, rather than the intelligence or the expertise of one fund manager. So it's the power of the many versus the intelligence of one or a few. And there, sometimes the market is smarter and is always in the long run proved to be a better place than an individual fund manager. Because it is index based, there is less churning and a less volatile portfolio. It generally kind of works along with the marketplace. These are all the reasons why people seem to be flocking to index funds of late. But is it all that rosy? Are there challenges along the way? Absolutely. Now let's understand some of the challenges one would face while investing in an index. Now, index, as you know, is a basket of securities that is provided by the stock exchange. Now, in this basket, you will have some of the superior performing companies, but you will also have companies that are going through their own share of pain and difficulty. As a smart fund manager, you may choose to keep your money invested in good companies that are performing well and not invest in some of those companies that are doing not so well. But at an index fund investing, the money is allocated across all the companies in the index, the good, the bad, the ugly. So you have very limited control on what you need to invest in at any given point in time. So to that extent, the fund manager managed funds can sometimes deliver superior returns as compared to the index, because the index is quite widely spread among companies that are not even performing really well. So to that extent, you don't have a choice when you go into index investing as you have when it's an actively managed fund. Second, while there is no fund manager in the index, so it's very difficult to take quick action that sometimes is needed. Even in index replication, there is always a lag that you have, due to which you have something which is called a tracking error. You cannot have a real time because the index is changing constantly during the day, because there is always a proportion that's going up or going down. To that extent, index funds are always lagging the index in some form or fashion. They are not proactively on the higher side. Now, last but not the least, indexes are a great place where people have made investments, but they are instruments that are very passive in nature, and passive funds create wealth over really long periods of time. So we have history in the Western world of index funds creating huge wealth as long as they are passively held for 20 years, 30 years and 40 years kind of time horizons. Unfortunately, in India, where 3 years is considered a long term, investors have very little patience, so to say. So if you have a very short horizon, say a 5 or a 10-year period, it is still possible that a fund manager will be able to beat the index. While I still state my point that over a 20-year or a 30-year period, index may still deliver superior returns. In the shorter term, a fund manager could deliver a much higher return than the index. There, I think if you have shorter horizon, then maybe an actively managed fund could be a better bet as compared to an index fund. Now, these are all some of the shortcomings of an index fund. Having said that, I think the jury is out there as to how to construct a perfect portfolio. And there I would say a mix of actively managed funds and index funds would be a good way for one to start one's creating portfolio.